dude. Let me see what I've got.
Good morning. I got a third retriever yesterday, so you still have to meet two of them.
You wonderful man.
Oh no, he's 2 years old.
Hey, buddy.
Is he two or three?
I promise you'll be able to use your inside voices today.
Yes, there are. Yeah, that's the
What's our Wi-Fi password here?
850 strong. Strong.
850. Any capital letters?
I believe the S is strong. There's exclamation on the
You have to say it like that.
Strong. Uh-oh.
so I'm out there messing around with him. So I'm out there putting with a hyper. I got to bring only two clubs. I don't know which one, so I got to see if I can cut the hyper. So Joel's out there making fun of me.
Because like every time I see it, it's on. Like
Yeah.
it's on,
What-
and it should be.
Well,
turned-
every time I bring it out here, I turn it on for you. That
and
way
then
it's linked up.
left. You can keep it off because I can turn it on. Okay, just try and save those batteries, you know, because if the batteries fail, it's going to be like shit filling.
Well, when I pull the batteries and put them back in, it's showing good. See,
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
We're gonna get us an education. That's what we're here for. I like it. Well, I like understanding stuff. So I don't learn anything by hearing myself talk. So I look forward to it. Greg, you can do one of these too, man. It might be worthwhile to get more in the private for you.
the range gonna open? Miss Vicky told me to call her because I need inconvenience, which is part of that deal, that real schedule. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So she said, let's just pull until after August, after the trial. Okay, yeah, yep. Which makes sense. It does. I probably wanted to shoot that 48 one. Well, we can take you up and let you shoot at the college. Oh, really? Yeah, yeah. The one, is that the one up off of Campfire? No, no, no. We can go to that one, or we can go to the one right here where the college is. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I like to know that sometimes, so. I haven't shot since Walt left. Walt Eisenbrow, he was retired painting police officer, and he ran the range. He and I were buddies, so we used to go up to Steelhead. We would shoot, and then he had everything to clean our guns. We'd go home and clean them, Of course, we'd have a bottle of vodka with us.
Right. The cool thing about the Glock is one of the easiest weapons to put.
It sure is. It comes apart 3 pieces. Yep, yep.
Once I start to...
Look, once Amanda gets rolling, you can't stop her.
It's hard to gauge because, originally it was 4 hours.
So they'll understand. Yes. Thank you. What? No, you got this.
Good morning. Oh, that's loud today. All right.
Hello.
No, that's fine. Good morning. Thank you for coming to our planning workshop with the planning department, Ms. Amanda Richardson. And at this time, we're going to get started with our workshop.
Good morning, everybody. I don't know if, are they all ready? Yeah. I decided that what I would do is begin with a little bit of the background of the history as to why do we even need to have a planning department? Why do we even need to have planning? There's been planning legislation in place for a few hundred years now, and the origins of it were basically because you had a situation as cities were developing where you would have a mixture of uses in together, and it was really unhealthy. So you could have like a foundry or some industrial use right next to tenement buildings where people were living. And back then, a lot of these buildings didn't have windows. There was no airflow. People were getting sick. And as we learned more about public health and safety, planning laws began to come into being and zoning came into being so that you didn't have incompatible uses next to each other and you didn't have people living in unhealthy, unsanitary conditions. So that happened over a period of a few hundred years. But where I'm starting off is our requirement to have comprehensive plans, because basically everything that we do in the planning department stems from the comprehensive plan. So whenever someone comes to us and wants to know if they can do something or if they have a question about their parcel of land, the very first thing we do always is to look at the future land use map to see what future land use you have, because that determines so many things. So the state of Florida has one of the most comprehensive and progressive land use planning programs in the country. Florida is very strict. We hear a lot of complaints from developers who've developed in other parts of the country about the rules that they have to adhere to here in Florida, but it's state required. And this is in section 163.3177 of Florida statutes. Local government comprehensive plans provide the policy foundation for local planning and land use decisions on capital improvements, conservation, intergovernmental coordination, recreation, open space, future land use, housing, transportation, and coastal management. And you will see that these are the required elements that we have in the comprehensive plan. And I have given you all a copy of the comprehensive plan so that you can look at it later on. The authority and responsibility for implementing those procedures and powers of comprehensive planning are vested in local government. So they're vested in you as a local government, because local governments have the regulatory authority over the use of the land. So even though the state controls the comp plan, you are the guys that have the authority over that, in that you are the agencies, you issue the development permits. So you're the ones at the end of the day when someone wants to do something that vote yes or no. So you have that regulatory power. 1985 was when Florida enacted the Local Government Comprehensive Planning and Land Development Regulation Act, Chapter 163, Part 2 of the Florida statutes. You can look that up today and you will see it. And you will see all the laws and requirements in there. And the statute requires that all local governments adopt, maintain, and implement land use plans and development regulations for all future development actions. So we can't just decide that we're going to get rid of the comp plan or get rid of the land use code. We have to have it. It's required by the state. And also requires that all geographic areas within the state be included within the jurisdiction of the comprehensive plan. One interesting little fact, well, I found it interesting, is in this paragraph here. All 67 counties and all of the cities and towns, as well as the Walt Disney World area, which is the Reedy Creek Improvement District, have adopted local comprehensive plans. So Walt Disney World has a comprehensive plan, which I think it would be kind of interesting to look up, actually, and see what they're going to be doing in the future, you know, because it's all got to be in there. In 2011, the Florida legislature revised the state planning statutes and renamed the Local Government Comprehensive Planning and Land Development Regulation Act as the Community Planning Act. So after a comp plan or element has been adopted, all development undertaken and all actions taken in regard to development orders by government agencies, which is us, in regard to land covered by such plan or element has to be consistent with the plan or element as adopted. You'll remember when we had that big workshop because of those apartments that were going in, and we had that big workshop at the school. There were a couple of people, one of them was a consultant, who were trying to say that it was not consistent with a comprehensive plan. And they were hoping that they could use that as a way of having you vote against it. But I have to check that everything is consistent with a comprehensive plan. So it doesn't come to you unless it's consistent with a comprehensive plan. If they thought that they actually didn't meet the requirements, they would have done something, they would have challenged it. But people oftentimes are kind of, especially when they get a consultant, are banking on you not understanding it, you not knowing. And so they'll get up and they'll say things like that, which just simply aren't true. So,
when was Lynn Haven's comprehensive plan adopted? 2018?
this is the latest version.
Latest. When
This
was the first
the
one
very
installed?
first one was before I came here, but I think it was about 1990.
1990.
Yeah,
Okay.
because when that 1985 Act came in, people had, the cities and the counties had a period of time to be able to put one together, and because they'd never done it before. And one of the things that they had to do was put the future land use map together, and they didn't know how to do that.
Right.
And so one of the issues that we have is when people were putting the first future land use map together, they basically drove around to look at what was on the property, and they created the maps from what was existing. So what most of the cities have, not all, but what a lot of the cities, most of the cities have, is actually a current land use map as opposed to a future land use map, because ideally you would have what is now, but then you would also have a vision of how you would like to see changes looking far out over the years, and so you would determine which parcels you would want to see in the future change to mixed use or change to commercial. So if we take Ohio, if we take Highway 77, you know, on Highway 77, those properties are commercial. You've got a couple of mixed use down by the bridge. Behind the commercial, you've got mixed use, because mixed use allows for commercial and also residential, and a mixture of both. So it's less intense than commercial. And then behind that, you have the residential. What you can expect to happen, especially as roadways widen and roads get busier, is that commercial is going to not just be on Ohio, but it's then
Gonna
going to
go
be
back
on
a block.
Florida.
Yep.
Yeah, and then that will push the mixed use back.
Right.
So ideally, what we would have is sessions to determine which areas we want to see become more intense and the density,
Right.
and we would create an actual real future land use map. And then when people came to us and they wanted to change the land use on something, we could look to see whether that meets our vision of how we want the city to grow.
So you answered my next question, is that we meet, you guys meet and tweak the comprehensive plan on a regular basis, or do you do it every 5 years, 2 years? Is it set, or do you do it whenever a situation arises to do it?
That's actually coming up in the presentation in a little while. We are required to evaluate it every 7 years.
Okay.
So there's a requirement by the
know that. I don't
state.
know if you knew that.
We have to look at it every 7 years, and it's a process which in the strategic plan, in my strategic plan, we'll be beginning that process next year, because we have to coordinate with the neighboring jurisdictions. We have to have a number of meetings, because we have to look at that plan. And to be honest, what's in that plan, a lot of what's in the plan that we have now, in some sections we've already done. In other sections, it's probably not appropriate now. We might want to do something a bit different. And so that's our opportunity to look to see, is it still addressing our needs and our requirements? Because we also, whenever laws change, we have to update it with the laws as well, with that in that 7 years.
I don't mean to get you off track, but I want one more question. The maps in Vicky's office, one of those is a future land use map. Are you familiar with Vicky's office with the maps on the wall?
I know, yeah, Vicky's office. I haven't really looked. If she's got a future land use map on there, then I know, yeah, I'm familiar with the future
I don't
land
know I don't know if she does, but I'd like to know that we have one accessible, like where we can.
Yeah, actually, and that's a good point, because one of the things that we are about to do, but we were waiting for this land use change that you just did for these properties, is have another one printed up. The land use map is always accessible online. Whenever you passed an ordinance that changes the land use map, after the 31 days is up, because we have to wait 31 days for it to become effective.
Constantly changing the land use
Yes,
map.
we send the ordinances to Bay County GIS, because we have a contract with Bay County GIS to keep our maps updated. They update it online, and then periodically we'll have some printed out. But you know, as soon as we've had one printed out and it goes up on the wall, it's going to be out of date within a few
every
weeks.
development order changes it, right?
No.
No?
A development order is something different. The land use is
Well, we change land use all the time.
Yes. The land use map gets changed. Basically, people want to do something on their land. They'll contact us, can I do this on my land? We look at the land use to see if it's something that they can do within that land use. If it isn't, then they may ask to change the land use. We're not even going to bring it to you if it's something that the state wouldn't approve, in that it's not consistent with the surrounding areas. You know, like if it was what you would call, even though we don't have zoning, spot zoning. But if it is consistent, the reason that they're asking to change it is because they want to do something on that land that currently they're not allowed to do. So every time I bring a land use map amendment to you, that which is the two ordinances, first reading by title only, and then the second one, public hearing, that changes the land use map.
Why did we do the Mill Bayou where we had to send it off to the state first and then come back to us?
That is, all these questions are going to be answered in my presentation.
Well, I'm trying to
but-
shorten it a little bit.
Basically, because if it's under 10 acres, then you can have 2 readings of the ordinance, you can approve it, and then if it isn't challenged, it becomes effective on the 31st day. And we send it to the state, but they don't do an in-depth review. If it's over 10 acres, you're not allowed to do that. What you have to do is vote to send it. Yeah. So by resolution, you vote whether you want to transmit it to the state or not. If you do, we send it to the state, and not just DEO, not just Department of Economic Opportunity, but we have to send it to DEP, FDOT. We have to send it to all the Department of Historical Resources. We have to send it out to Northwest Florida Water Management District. All these state agencies, they have 30 days to review it. If they have a problem with it, they contact us within that 30 days and they let DEO know. They may ask us for additional information, and then at the end of that 30 days, they contact us. DEO will send us a letter saying, either you can, okay, we've reviewed this, you can go ahead and you can adopt it, but if you do, it has to be within 180 days, or they'll have objections and recommendations, and they'll say, no, this reviewing agency has said they're not happy with this because of traffic, let's say, so you're going to have to fix this and then resubmit it to us, and we'll take another look at it. Any of the agencies can say that. But if we get the all clear, that's when I bring it back to you so that you can then vote on the ordinances and you can vote on it. And then once you've voted on it, two readings again of the ordinance, the second one being a public hearing. I then send it back to the state. They do another review. And if they're okay with it, they send us a letter after 30 days saying, okay, it'll be effective on the 31st day. So it's quite a procedure. And that's why sometimes, not you guys so much, but in the past, sometimes what has happened has been, I've kind of public noticed something, and there's very strict public noticing requirements for land use map amendments, and then you'll decide to kind of change your meeting day for whatever reason or something. It totally messes with the process. So then I have to, that's all rubbish now. Now I've got to resend notices for public hearings, and it kind of, just so that you know, if you are going to like change a meeting date, day or something, it would be really good if you could do it when when we're not in the middle of a large-scale future land use map amendment.
Just like it coming to us, and we might have our pre-meeting, but then later that day, something might happen, right? You might get something on the agenda.
So, well, sometimes you're going to know this all has to be set out so precisely, looking out into the future when we plan the dates on all these. And then sometimes what will happen will be, for something totally unrelated to this agenda item, you might all decide that you're not going to have a meeting that day, or you're going to change it to another day. And I understand that, and normally it's fine, but if we're in the middle of the procedure for the future land use map amendment, it can really mess with all those public notices that we've put out there, and then the public get confused. And I just thought this would be an opportunity to let you know about that. I
think it was just such a
because they are
large landmass, probably.
they are a before they actually started building, I'm guessing, they had to declare themselves and go through the process with the state of becoming an improvement district, because that was all agricultural land. So they wouldn't have been able to just build it. They had to do a huge, large-scale plan amendment, like a sector plan. And so because they're a district, because they're an improvement district, they're... Yeah. They have two towns. They have Lake Buena Vista.
Celebration is a
Yeah, Lake
town.
Buena Vista is part of the Reedy
Yeah.
Creek Improvement District, and there's another town that is too.
Celebration. I think they were such a force and it's such a large landmass, and they know that there was major development, so they had to say, hey, you're gonna have to show your cards like everybody else, you know what I mean?
I think it's really interesting. I didn't know that, so I'm going to do a bit more research into that as well. I think, it's.
Joe, for example, has a lot of land. Now, I know it's agriculture or forest or whatever. It's not really like building a town like Disney does. But can the state step in and say, okay, Joe, here's your comprehensive plan, but you own so much land?
It's
Yeah,
amazing
I mean,
that
do you remember when there was
it's only been around
talk?
since 1985.
There,
too.
there
That's
was
nuts.
there was talk about some huge thing going in up Highway 20, I think, or 77 at one point. It never did happen, but it was around Ebro. It was kind of around the Ebro area, and there was talk that it was going to be a zoo, and it was going to be this. Do you remember?
I remember hearing that, yes.
And
like a Six Flags or a Busch Gardens
it was
type
going to
deal.
be, and there were going to be houses, and there was going to be, it was huge. They had to do a public sector plan. There were a series of meetings. The state was heavily involved. If that had happened, because of the impact to the area and the natural resources and what have you, they would have had a comprehensive
Gotcha.
plan also.
Okay, that
Yeah.
makes sense. I was just
Yeah.
curious.
And also, one other thing, the comp plan that you have there, any changes that we make, I said we have to look at it and update it if needs be every 7 years. Any changes that we make to it at any time within the 7 years have to be treated, text amendments have to be treated the same as large-scale future land use map amendments. So anytime we want to change the text, like when we took out the proportionate fair share language for transportation and had a multimodal mobility fee instead, there's a transportation element in here. They actually gave us the grant, DEO, to carry out the research and to have change to a multimodal mobility fee, because that's what they were encouraging. But we had to send that. Any text change has to go to the state by resolution for them to look at, just the same as a large land use map amendment. We can't just change it without their permission. And every time we send them something, they're comparing our stuff to theirs. They have a state comprehensive plan, and our city and counties comp plans have to be consistent with their comp plans. So that's why I'm starting with this, because it's huge. Constantly. Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. And the Unified Land Development Code that we have is basically, on the whole, implementing our comprehensive plan, which we'll see as we work through this. But very good questions, and I'm going to be able to just skip over some of these slides now because of the questions that you asked. So before a city issues any development order or adopts any ordinance that relates to the development of property or takes any other action in regard to development orders, the city has to ensure that the action is consistent with the comprehensive plan. And there is no variance to a comprehensive plan. If we're asking somebody to do something because it's in the comp plan, they cannot ask for a variance on that. And if a local government decides to approve a development that's not consistent with the plan must be amended first, which is your future land use map. No, I'll just say no, you can't have a variance on the comp plan. But it's worth knowing, because I know some people come to you guys sometimes when they can't do something, and they'll say, can we have a variance? Or sometimes, commissioners might say, well, court, we'll find out if you can have a variance. So that's why I wanted to make it clear that when it comes to the comp plan, no variances are allowed on that. Here we look, required update every 7 years to reflect our current needs at that time and any new government legislation. For instance, there's a requirement that we update our comp plan to address sea level rise. It was passed, it's a law, we have to do that, but I have spoken to them, and we can do it before our 7 year, but they don't mind if we wait for our big, all our changes and put that in there in the 7 year. No. That's now if it changes our requirement for setbacks, wetland setbacks and that kind of thing, then we will put it in there. We've got a conservation element in there, but it is for me. It isn't normally in a planning department. It's usually the building department. It's usually the building inspector that's the floodplain coordinator or manager. Right now, I'm carrying out that role, learning as much as I can on that. But it's not, and it is important, and it is a thing, but it's not part of the comprehensive plan. We have floodplain management language in our Unified Land Development Code. We have a coastal element, you'll see. We have, coastal, we have inland wetlands, and we have mentions of it, but the actual, the actual day-to-day technical stuff isn't comp plan stuff.
If I understand it right, just because the flood map changes doesn't change the language of the comprehensive plan, right?
The flood maps are updated by FEMA.
Right.
It'll affect things like whether we're allowed to build in coastal high hazard areas. It will affect what's our wetlands. So it will affect our maps and our map series, but all the detail and the information is not in the comprehensive plan.
Where are we in our 7 years? You're saying every 7 years. Where are we?
We are, I think it's 2023. It's either 23. This was updated in 2018, so that would make it 2025. But I'm trying to think of what I put on the strategic plan. It might just be that we're doing most of our work. I can let you know on that. I don't want to tell you. We're not there yet, though. We've got a couple of years.
And then I noticed we're single map versus zoning. Why are we that way?
Yes. So most cities and counties, so everybody in Florida has to have the comprehensive plan, okay? Everybody has to have a future land use map. We do not have a zoning map as well as that. Most cities and counties have a zoning map, which is a locally controlled layer. We used to have years ago, but we don't have one. Ever since I've been here, we haven't had one because we have all of our setback requirements, size of lot requirements, those things in our Unified Land Development Code. With a zoning map, and we always get questions, what zone am I? And we have to explain we don't have a zoning map. We just have the future land use map. So with a zoning map, you would have under, let's say, single-family residential. We've got low-density residential as a future land use map designation. If we had a zoning map, then we would have, under low-density residential, we would have what you find in other cities is probably like R9, R10, R11. And what that means, R9 would mean that a buildable lot would have to be 9,000 square feet. R10 would mean it had to be 10,000 square feet. R11, 11,000 square feet. And then under their medium density residential, they would also have, R6, R7, R8, let's say. We don't have that because we don't have any lot size requirements other than in the historic plat, the 1911 historic plat, which is the original Lynn Haven, which is in your, let me see if I can flick through this. That's the future land use map, by the way. See all the colors? They will mean something different. Let's see, I have got the historic plat here for you. Look at all these. There you go. That's the original 1911 historic plat. That's the original Lynn Haven. So, if someone...
It's a lot cleaner borders than we have now.
Yeah. And this is kind of like roughly, this is it roughly. Basically, and we get lots of questions on this. Mm-hmm. If you have a low-density residential land use, just low-density residential land use, then to be a buildable lot, it has to be at least 7,500 square feet and have 75-foot wide on the roadway. So it needs to be 75 foot wide, 7,500 square feet. That's in the Unified Land Development Code. That's not in the comp plan. That's in the Unified Land Development Code. Other than that, in that area, yes, because it used to be that they had to be 15,000 square feet. When these original Lynnhaven lots were sold, they're all 50-foot lots. You can see that plat, all 50-foot lots. Back in the day, when people were buying up these lots, most people bought more than one. They would buy 2, 3, 4. Some people just bought one. So at some point in time, with the Unified Land Development Code, probably because of the comp plan, it was determined that in order to be a buildable lot, it had to be 15,000 square feet in size. So you had to have like at least, 3 of these lots to be a buildable lot, which is why you've got in this historic plat area around here, you have got a lot of big lots. Not so many of them now, but with one house on. Then they changed it about a year after I came here. So I came here in 2012. So I think it was 2013, because developers were complaining, and people were complaining that the houses were expensive. You had to have a big lot. There weren't any smaller lots, any smaller, well, house sizes have stayed the same, the requirement. So the commission at that time, it was the commission at that time that... So outside the plat, it doesn't matter. And inside the plat, it doesn't matter unless you're low-density residential. So if you, let me go back to the future land use map. If you're mixed use, it doesn't matter. If you're commercial, it doesn't matter. So on this map, can you see all the kind of brown hatch stripe properties? The kind of beige ones? Do I have a pointy thing? The browns? Yeah. Okay, see these? See all these? Oh, yeah. These are all low density residential. On there, all the CRA marked the CRA is, it's not marked on here, but it's kind of this area here.
I know that's tough with, I mean, it would be a back current to commercial growth, but if we started with either the CRA or the plat to protect those lots, just something to think about, because there's plenty of land outside of the plat that's being developed in a different way, and we get that, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I mean, the plat and the state streets and stuff are, I mean, before too long, they're pretty historic, and these lot sizes. I don't know how you guys. It's a chance. This is a chance for us to talk about.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, because outside of the historic plat area, if a developer wants to develop a subdivision, because outside of the historic plat, it isn't 50-foot lots. The 50-foot lots are only in the historic plat. And I do want to mention that people are allowed to build on one 50-foot lot if they bought one 50-foot lot only prior to 1975. And we look in the tax rolls to see if they did, so they can. Outside of the historic plat, the only requirements are that they keep to the setbacks, because each of the land use designations have different side setbacks, front and rear setbacks. So the only requirement is that the lot is big enough for them to keep to the setbacks and have a house that's at least 33 feet wide at its narrowest point. That currently is a requirement for all houses. Single-family homes have to be at least 33 feet wide at its narrowest point, which again is something that you can say, you can, decide whether you want to stay in place or whether you want to change.
Oh, yeah, I get that, but do you want two of them on a corner lot? 'Cause that's
So
what
if you
we're gonna
wanted it
get.
to go back to 15,000 square feet, then you could do that. Yeah, I believe it was either 2012 or 2013 that changed.
Where's an example that you're talking about on the corner lot?
If you go down here, if you come out here on Pennsylvania as you're leaving here, and you go down 2 blocks and you look at 11th Street at the corner of 11th and Pennsylvania, there's a corner lot that's been developed into 2 houses. And they're two. Yeah, but I mean, if you leave here and go,
Fifth Street
on
in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania and go 10th, 11th, and look, they're nice houses, and I don't, I think it would, but what you're creating is a congested type, modern type zero lot line in an older 1911 style neighborhood. So do we want to protect this, or do we want, and it's a fight on our hands because we'll probably get yelled at by contractors and developers who are wanting to do that kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, do you want every corner lot, to be dissected and have more than one home on it, or you know what I mean? And those corner lots are pretty big. They really are. They. Yeah. Oh yeah. They're gonna. Hey, there's gonna be a lot more. There's people making a business out of this, where they're gonna take those corner lots and put 2 houses up.
And maybe we just want to,
I don't know. You guys, how do you guys feel about it?
Well,
You guys live here too, right? Okay.
There's impacts to the water and sewer side of this. When you take a original single-family lot and split it, oftentimes those water and sewer services are available on the side street, not the frontage street that they want to face.
Right.
So we put that on the developer in order to make those connections to the city. But that's also impacts into your wastewater treatment plant and the capacity that was built 20 years ago for single family, one house here. Now you've basically doubled that, and it makes you run out of capacity at the sewer plant a lot quicker, which we're already there. Just from all the other.
So you wouldn't be a fan of it, right?
Either way.
Either way, but you.
It just, that's a impact with lots of.
Yeah, but he cares about what he does.
Well,
Impacts into the collection system, the capacity of the water and sewer system to supply those services and receive services, as well as the treatment.
So the newer neighborhoods you could set up better with
Correct.
With
Because that's
usage.
a Plan development, you know your capacity, but all that development has to get to the sewer plant on this side of town. So there's impacts all the way through the system when you're talking about these things.
Bobby, what does that do to impervious type stuff that run off the roads?
It basically doubles it. So it does impact stormwater.
It doesn't.
Yes, yes. I think your concern is more the look, isn't it, from the,
Aesthetically, yes, but are we really wanting to develop this area like that? You know what I mean? The whole developmental impact is what I'm worried about as far as, aesthetics are part of that too, but, because it's I think as we serve our city, we need to protect the look and feel of our city, I think, you know what I mean? I know you feel that way. You got that side, I got, more on this side.
Yeah.
I like where I live,
Yeah, and like I said before, the parking is a real issue, and I get a lot of complaints about that when you put 2 houses on that size lot, there's no parking, and people are parking on other people's property, and I get calls about it a lot.
yeah, and I worry also
right?
about the driveways, the driveway connections. Sometimes all of those driveways, those new driveways going in onto a street, and because, safety, planning, we're looking at public health and safety, and I feel sometimes that there's just too many individual driveways coming out onto streets that I can see are going to get increasingly busier.
So how do we change it?
Well,
Agenda item, ordinance, whatever.
well, the first thing I was going to ask is there that much more land that hasn't been developed in areas that you're talking about where that would have,
You look
Like
at
that.
every state street, every numbered street, right? And you look at, they're all cut up the same way, right, in the plat? in the
They were all
historic plat.
50-foot lots, and what's happening when they
Except for
split
the
them?
corner lots, they're
Yeah,
double.
so what they're having to do, what they're having to do is, most of these lots are 50 by 150, 50 by 100 or whatever. What they're doing is, if the lots are running, let's say, west to east on a corner, two 50-foot lots, they're replatting. They're doing a minor subdivision. They come to you, Mayor, don't they? And they're actually replatting, because in order to get two, if there's two 50-foot lots, they have to split them north-south down the middle, which means that their driveways are now on a different road to the original road that the driveways were on, and it's usually a busier road.
so it's not just vacant lots, it's lots that already have a house on it, and they're like, all right,
They
we're going to
tear 'em
split this up
down.
and put on another house.
Let's ask Ms. Vicky, do you get concerns about the corner lots being dissected like that with the double houses? Do you like the look of that?
Well, let me say this,
Live on
there's just some things that are going through my mind thinking about all this, and I'm not saying I'm for or against it, but one of the things that we got questioned quite a bit when we were campaigning was affordable housing. And so that's one factor, and I'm not saying that should determine whether we say yay or nay. The other thing is, and I'm sure you heard me say it a million times, is every residential house that you have, for every dollar of tax revenue you collect, the city provides about $1.40 of city services. So that's why you have to pay for your city services, and they determine the rates and things like that. But if you have more houses, that might drive that down a little bit to bring more tax revenue, and that may affect the millage rate. Am I correct on that assessment?
And I think the majority of our growth is going to be outside that historic plat.
Correct.
So why not be a good steward of the historic side of our town and protect the historic plat versus let people come in and develop every corner lot and put two houses in there, and then we have a quilted patch look to everything. Aesthetics and development wise, I just don't know if that's the best way to go for for the future of the city.
And I think this,
Because you could lose your identity, you could lose your culture of feel. We're already going to have commercial growth, as you said, coming back a block into Pennsylvania, and then coming back a block. You know what I mean? As
Right.
as things get busier in the commercial corridors. You know, I'm talking years and years from now, but it's just something that that I heard Ms. Tinder talk about it. It resonates with me too, as far as what we need to think about being a good steward of the historic area. So.
I think
think-
we also, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think this falls under what you were mentioning during our strategic planning, which is really quality growth. And so I think we should look at both and, not just the historical area.
Form an agenda item or talk about it at our first, pre-meeting to, that whether we want to put it on an agenda. That's probably a good thing about the pre-meetings, is that we can form an agenda item there too.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Well, you do know too also that before the election, I think Commissioner Aldridge had started the way the aesthetics of the commercial corridor and even behind would look, and we would put some things in place.
Low
And
density lots.
we kind of put that on halt because of the election and so many other things and changes. And Amanda had prepared, and we pulled a lot of information about how you want to, I'm sure Commissioner Tender, you remember that, how we wanted that corridor to look. So you have some authority to put some things in place once we start to rebuild. People start to rebuild and bring in houses or commercial, whatever it may be, some things you can put in place to make sure you still keep your same mainstream that historic look that you're looking for in those areas. And so I like what Commissioner Perno says,
Why did-
quality growth.
Yeah, why did they change it? Bobby, were you here when they made that change? No?
I've heard rumors about it, but I don't know if it's
Well, it
true.
was 2013, you said?
It was either 12 or 13. I know I hadn't been here very long.
Yeah.
Is there, go ahead.
No, I heard rumors about it, but I don't know if it's true.
Is there any way we can find out how many plats they have done that with and how many other plats it could affect?
I can certainly tell you how many minor subdivisions, because they have to go through a process and they have to bring us a copy of the new survey, so we have all of those. As to how many it might affect,
And we're only talking about are we only talking about the CRA portion?
no,
or just the
no, the
historic plat?
whole of the historic
No,
plat.
I'm talking what Mr. Perno was talking about.
I threw that out there as, hey, what do you guys want to protect?
Yeah.
Do you want to start with the CRA? If you want to do this at all, I know that two of us feel pretty passionate about it, but you know, and I don't know if we're stopping the wheels of progress by saying it and doing it, but you know, ultimately, I would think the whole historic plaque should go back and protect those corner lots, but.
So we're
I
talking
don't
about
know.
historic plat then?
I'm thinking the city as a whole when we're thinking of quality growth and development.
Yeah, I think outside the historic plaque, the city's gonna grow, you know, in a manner in which it's more planned neighborhood. Okay, inside the historic plaque, we already heard from our utilities person that it has a little more impact, you know, and our road person that it doubles the stormwater inside an area that was set up to only have these size lots, you know. So we're looking at environmental impact. We're looking at.
Can I just say something? Outside of the historic plat, the city won't be developed in the same way as it is inside the historic plat, because outside the historic plat, they have to adhere to subdivision requirements. So what would be coming to you would be subdivisions, you know, like Hawks Landing, and at the rest of the city, citywide, the majority of the land that will be developed will be some kind of a subdivision or a townhome development, as you've been seeing, not these individual little 50-foot lots. Developers aren't going to be buying them up like that so
I know you
much.
were about to say something, but I think that's why I think the historic plat is the important piece, because those are open roads. Where you're talking about, most of them are going to be subdivisions, so it's not going to be a whole lot of traffic.
You're looking at open roads with
We say that,
General Lynn stormwater.
You may talk now.
but then that's where during the campaign and pre-campaign, that's what I guess discontentment from the community was coming from, was the subdivisions. For example, we live in Moat
Control
Highlands.
growth.
Right. So we live in Moat Highlands, and I remember you and I both came to a meeting about a subdivision with growth.
Yeah.
So, I mean, although they're not those historical plats, that's where I'm getting the complaints from, isn't so much from the historical division as much as the outlying areas and how those are being developed and how those are affecting the housing around it. If you're in a...
But we got to be preemptive about it, maybe.
No, that actually is an excellent point.
How you...
But we can't figure it out today, so it's something that we can
Yeah, because if
make a
someone
note
owns a
of.
large tract of land, if they own 10 acres or 20 acres, it's very rare that someone's going to come along and want to buy half an acre on that roadway, because they're just not going to do it. The person who owns that land is going to sell it to the developer that is going to make money out of it, and the only way they're going to make money out of it, because they're going to have to put in improvements. They have to put stormwater, sidewalks. The people that are developing on these little lots, they don't have to deal with stormwater. And you know, look what we're trying to address on the streets right now, because they've never had to deal with stormwater. So if you're only building one house or one duplex, you don't need a development order. You just go to the building department and you pull your building permit, which is why we have the subdivision requirements in place, so that developers can't buy a piece of land, chop it up, and build houses without having to address stormwater, sidewalks, and all of those infrastructure needs that we have. But you're not going to get someone who's got a big field Nobody's going to come along and buy like 2 pieces right on the road, because they're not going to sell them 2 little pieces right on the road. That's why these developers are looking for corner lots, so that they can, because these are not big developers. These are people that like to build 1 house or 2 houses.
I just want to piggyback on what you're saying. I feel very strongly about not messing with CRA property. I've actually called Chief Ramey on more than one occasion, and he had to go out there, and thank goodness he knew the man. This man would come to me every week or every 2 weeks complaining about the house that they built 2 houses in the same lot. He lives in a very nice neighborhood. It's been there forever. Mm-hmm. And the people who bought one of those 2 houses had 2 teenagers that drove. Mm-hmm. And plus, Dad had a pickup truck with a trailer always attached to it, and it was always parked in the street and actually impeded people driving normally. They had to come and go around because his 2 teenagers' cars were in the driveway and all that. And mm-hmm. I know Chief Ramey has gone out there for sure. Mm-hmm. And that whole thing, just like, I don't know if you all remember when the fuel depot, that was kind of going smoothly until that guy wanted to come out into the old neighborhood and put a swimming pool and a sales office and all of that. He wasn't keeping it behind the fence. He was coming out into right there. He wanted to be neighbors with people who'd been there for 40 years. And mm-hmm. they weren't going to hear of it, mm-hmm. Oh, there were a lot of other issues with that deal, but
I think inside the historic plat, there's plenty of single lots or houses that need to be possibly renovated, or there's some empty lots inside the plat now that where a developer or a contractor can build a new house for somebody or redo one, but you don't have to go to these corner lots and make 2 houses out of it, because mm-hmm. it changes everything on the look. And even though they're nice and whatnot, mm-hmm. but not.
Well, and I don't want an apartment building built across from me either.
No.
And
but I think we you can protect more of the culture and the way things look, just like you want a mm-hmm. certain look on the commercial quarter. This whole neighborhood is, it's old Lynn Haven,
You can have, so long as you keep to the density, which you would, because you'd be making it less dense and intense, you can make changes to the Unified Land Development Code requiring, when someone does build a house, whether it be in the historic plat or outside, requiring certain things to achieve the look that you want. And also, Mayor, outside of the historic plat, we have subdivision requirements, but they are in the Unified Land Development Code. You can change those. You can have requirements as to how you want a subdivision to look and be set out and laid out, if you want, outside of the historic plat.
But it has to be updated in the comprehensive?
No, not that, no.
No?
No, that's in the Unified Land Development Code.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, which I can get to in a moment. Shall I carry on with some of this? Thank you. What we're going to talk about are the elements, some of the elements that are in the comp plan, because these are the things that we have to take into consideration. I want to mention too the ones that we used to have in there, but we don't now. The thing with the comp plan, it's a bit like the CRA plan. If it's in the plan, you kind of, I think with CRA plan, you can't do it unless it's in the plan. With the comp plan, if it's in the plan, you have to do it. And there are certain elements that are required, but now there are certain elements that the state no longer require, and we can pull out if we want. So public school facilities element used to be in the comp plan, but we've pulled that out. So there used to be public school concurrency, but now we're no longer required to have it. The recreation and open space element was a required element, but now is also considered optional. We still have recreation in our comp plan, but we don't have to. So when we do our 7 years, which I believe is 2023, because I'm going to start looking at it next year, so it has to be 2023. This was a mid-session. This 2018 was a session kind of update because of the multimodal mobility fee. So it's coming back to me now. So yeah, 2023 is our update. So we can pull the recreation one out. If it's in there, it has a level of service attached to it, which means we're way beyond that because of our new parks and everything. But it means you're going to have a certain number and type of recreation facilities, that kind of thing. So what do we have? We have the future land use map element, which we've discussed in depth. So I'm not going to go over this slide, other than to say that our future land use map element is regulated partly through our Unified Land Development Code. So not a zoning map, but Unified Land Development Code. And it's the most looked at, the most recognized element. It's the one that comes before you the most. And it allows for economic development that's compatible with the city's character, which is what you were all just talking about, and natural resources. But we're not allowed to create infrastructure needs in excess of those that we can provide, which I'll talk about in a moment, but it applies to annexations and that kind of thing. So again, here is our future land use map. If you're ever looking for this, you can get it if you go to, if you Google Bay County GIS.
We're going to take a 5-minute break,
Okay,
and then we'll come back.
okay. I'll leave it right
Pat
there.
can
What was
grab
that?
some coffee.
Google, what was
Bay
it?
County GIS. So if you just Google Bay County GIS, then some links will come up, and you'll see one of them will say Interactive Map Gallery. The easiest way, there's a few different ways of getting there, but if you click on Interactive Map Gallery, the whole map will come up, but it'll be not just for us, it'll be for the other people that they do maps for as well. But there's a search thing on the top left. Well, here, can you see up there on the top left? It's got a little magnifying glass. You can put the address in, or you can put the parcel number in, and it'll take you to that parcel, and then the code will be on, the key will be on the right-hand side, so you'll be able to see whether it's in the city, the county, and what the future land use is on it.
Rubbish. How do you say garage? Garage.